Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Happiness Conversations. I know this is looking a bit new to many people out there that Vaani and I are sitting so close to each other. Just a few minutes before we went live, we've had a situation where one of the devices that we were working on collapsed, and that necessitated that the two of us share a device and share an earphone, just as we have been sharing our life for the last 33 years. I can see Sri Kumar Verma there, feeling totally romantic with the way we both are looking right now. In Michael Madana Kamaraj terms, this means for those of you who don't understand Tamil, I'll translate it, but it really means Ishindirkom, which means hum bahut chipke hue hain. We're very close to each other. Anyway, on that note and that clarification, let me welcome you to the 18th edition in the 5th season of Happiness Conversations. My name is AVIS and this is Vaani. We are the happynesswalas. Our life's purpose is inspiring happiness. Google us, HAPPYNESSWALAS, happynesswalas. We have a fascinating story out there, and Google us. But just to give you an overview, Vaani and I, for the last 14 years, have been going through a crippling bankruptcy. It's been an amazing, life-changing experience for the two of us. In this time, we have dealt with prolonged spells of worklessness and often pennilessness. This has really meant that we've been in quarantine for 14 years. We've been challenged socially, professionally, financially, emotionally in this phase of our life. So materially, it's been a very, very, very difficult time, very painful also. We are still going through this phase. It's not over. And yet, in the same time, we both really awoke to a life of happiness. We learned the art of being non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering. And through learning that art, through teaching ourselves that art, we learned to be happy despite our circumstances. That's when we asked ourselves, hey, success is being elusive. We are not able to be successful. We are not able to earn the money to repay our 179 creditors. And we have not even started the process even after 14 years. Sometimes surviving month on month is a huge challenge. So while success is elusive, how can we be useful? We asked ourselves that question. And that led me, and I'm going to throw up screen share now for you to be able to see what I'm sharing. I wrote my book, Fall Like a Rose Petal, which was published in 2014. You can see my book here. Yeah, there. And the book deals with our journey. It deals with the lessons we have learned on how to be happy and content while living without money. In this time, we also brought out the Tamil translation of this book in 2019 called Udirum Roja Idar Pola. And this book was launched last year. Both the books are available on Amazon. So we have been living a life of purpose through this dark phase of our life, trying to be useful, sharing what we have learned with a larger audience. We even retooled our business for us to be able to share through our small, tiny boutique consulting firm. We've been able to share lessons on life and happiness distilled from human stories for inspiring managers to high performance. And over the last 5 years, we've also been curating and hosting 2 non-commercial, live, reflective conversation series. These are Bliss Catchers and Happiness Conversations. Both these conversation series are open to public. They're free. The first one, Bliss Catchers, deals with the journeys of people who have gone on to do what they love doing. And the Happiness Conversations, which is the series that you're attending right now, this conversation series explores the journeys of people who have every reason to be unhappy, but they've chosen to be happy despite their circumstances. Both these conversation series are supported by the Odyssey bookstore in Chennai. Until recently, both these conversation series were hosted live at Odyssey's Adyar store here in Chennai. But after the pandemic hit us, we have taken these conversations onto Zoom, and we now are touching a larger global audience. Today, for instance, we have audience joining us from Los Angeles and Louisiana in the US. We have people coming in from Muscat and Dubai in the Middle East. We go down under and we have somebody from Australia. We have people from Pathankot, Ranchi, Hyderabad, Vijayawada, Kolkata, Mumbai, Salem, Thrissur, Alapura, and a lot of people from Chennai. So we have been able to take through Zoom these conversations to a larger audience, and that fills our heart for Vaani and me. In today's conversation, just to walk you through the format for today's conversation, let me stop share and come back to the main screen. For today's conversation, what we have, the format is, it's a 90-minute conversation. We have started on time and we will take it all the way till 8:30 and end sharp at 8:30. In today's format, we do not have a Q&A planned with the audience. You will, as audience members, we're very grateful to all of you for joining us, but you will be placed on mute all through the conversation. We also request you to turn off your videos so we can squeeze bandwidth in order to be able to record this conversation. If you have any comments to make, please make them in the chat box and we'll pick them up after the conversation is over. We will also invite any reactions that you have to the conversation in the chat box. Please also know that in case there is a power outage or an internet outage at our end, we will come back in a couple of minutes. And in case you are experiencing audio or video difficulties at your end, please log out and come back. It might be a temporary Zoom issue and normally sorts itself out. So let's go ahead and have a beautiful conversation this evening. And to introduce that conversation, let me share with you a learning from a beautiful but extremely poignant poem by a poet, an Urdu poet, a Pakistani poet called Qatil Shifai. So Qatil Shifai, and I've heard this poem, the song, a few times, but I heard it recently last week, and I'm pulling it back from my memory to be able to share it with you here. Qatil Shifai wrote about pain, and he wrote about it very powerfully. So this is a prayer from him. It's a part prayer, part lament from Qatil Shifai, and he says, "Dard se mera daman bhar de, ya Allah." So when you listen to the poem, and as the poet progresses, you feel the power of each word that the poet has used. So, Dard se mera daman bhar de ya Allah, fill my heart with pain, O Creator. And he says that I have not asked for the moon or the stars. I have not asked for anything from you. I have seen the daybreak every day. I've seen the sunshine, but show me a new dawn, he says. And he says, either you place, heal the wounds, dard pe, the dharti ke zakham pe marham laga de. So place, heal the wounds of the earth, or turn my heart into stone. So the poet really says, "Dard se mera daman bhar de ya Allah." He's actually lamenting, and he's saying, there's so much pain in my life Why don't you give me some more and drive me crazy? So when you actually hear the original song rendered by Jagjit Singh, you will be completely moved. Google the song, listen to it at some point today. It's a very powerful song. And there is a little trivia here that Jagjit Singh sang this song on the night before his son died in a car crash. And the story goes that in all these 30 years since this accident happened in 1990, Chitra Singh has not sung at all. And Jagjit himself, after about a year of not being able to sing, not being able to face an audience and sing, and not being able to bring music to his lips, he finally started singing in 1991, a year after the accident, and recorded this song with Lata Mangeshkar in a beautiful album called Sajda. Why I'm quoting this poem is, this poem reminds us that pain in life is inevitable, that pain arrives uninformed, uninvited, unannounced. You cannot wish away pain, but we have every choice to be non-suffering. You take something like an ordinary pain, like the pain of a headache, talaveli ke sar dukh raha hai aapka. And you can take a pill, you can have a cup of coffee, you can have a drink, you can go for a long walk, you can listen to music, you can do gardening, you can do cooking, anything that works as therapy for your pain. But the moment you start asking why, ayo, why me? Why this pain now? Why this pain for me now? That is when you start suffering. So the key to deal with pain is to learn the art of being non-suffering. When you learn to be non-suffering, you will be non-frustrated. You will realize that you only have a right to your actions in life. You don't have a right to the outcomes and to the results. So you'll be non-frustrated. And through that, you will learn to be non-worrying. You see, we all know that worrying doesn't solve any problems, but we all worry. It's a natural process again in life. But worries are like waves. They're waves of thoughts. And like a wave rises and falls, a thought too will rise and fall. And so you have a choice not to pick up that thought, not to pick up that worry. When you learn to be non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering, you will be happy no matter how painful the circumstances are. And that is what we do with the happiness conversations. We explore the journeys of people who are dealing with a lot of pain and yet who have learned the art of being non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering, being happy despite their circumstances. People who have learned to live fully with what is, like our guest today, Vidya Shankar. So Vidya, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome. Welcome to the Happiness Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. We met Vidya when Vaani and I were invited by another friend to a conversation on how do we deal with a stormy, crisis-ridden phase in our lives. This was in May 2018, Vidya. You remember that? The conversation we all had with Jayashree Ramesh. And what struck Vaani and me the most about Vidya was, at that time, she was dealing with and perhaps clawing her way out of a depression. And yet, she was facing life. She was talking to people. She was wearing her vulnerability on her and facing an audience and telling people her story. So we kind of tucked it away and we said, Vaani and I, that here's somebody that we should explore for inviting to the happiness conversations. And so we invited her for a cup of coffee, and Shankar, her husband, and she joined us, and we had a very meaningful meeting over a cup of coffee. And we discovered that for 10 years in her life, Vidya went through painful, frustrating, futile fertility treatments. And for many, many years after that, she faced shaming by her own family, by public, for her inability to bear a child. And then she had to go through another painful procedure, a hysterectomy. Now you would imagine that all of this can break anyone, but she further went into a depressive phase. She dealt with depression. And 25 years of her life had already gone past by the time all of this were over. Anybody else could have crumbled, but not Vidya. She took her pain and poured it into her art. She's written two books, one, The Flautist of Brindaranyam, and in which her husband Shankar collaborated with her in bringing up some beautiful pictures to go with each of her poems. And the second book, The Rise of Yogamaya, which was released more recently. Through both these books, what Vidya is telling us is that pain is useful, and use your pain as a means of coping with the inscrutable part of your life. That's really what she's saying. But what we are keen to explore today, Vidya, with you is how do we let go of bitterness when life is very unfair to us? Does acceptance of a problem really make it possible to deal with it better? Can pain really be employed to create art? These are some of the questions that we're going to explore in today's conversation. And I'm sure for the audience, this is going to be a wonderful opportunity to pause, to reflect, and to kind of understand for yourself in your own life context how you too can cope with the challenges of life. So that's the introduction to today's conversation and to Vidya. I'll now let Vaani take over, and I'll keep coming in. The format is that we will talk to Vidya, we will take her inputs and share our own learnings from that with each of you. So this is not an interview, this is not a speech, but it's a conversation. Over to you, Mom. I call her Mom, so there's Vaani for you, the other happiness wala.
Yes. Thank you, Avis. And Vidya, thank you so much for agreeing to be on this conversation and for sharing your story with all of us. Um, just thinking of how much of trauma and pain you must have gone through, makes me wonder if at any point in time, looking back, did you ever feel that maybe you should have taken a stand, or maybe you should have taken certain decisions? Now thinking back, do you feel that way? And what have been your learnings? And could you also tell us something about what actually happened? Because a lot of people don't understand what fertility treatments are about. They think it's like popping a pill. So they really don't understand what it is and how much of pain is involved. So whatever you are willing and happy to share, we would like to hear from you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Avis and Vaani, and thank you for giving me this platform, because this is a story that needs to be told and needs to be heard, because unless I tell this, no one is going to know the pain behind fertility treatment. It's not something that everyone talks about. So looking back now, well, immediately after the surgery, after the hysterectomy, when I was in pain and in anger, I did feel that, yes, maybe I should have put my foot down sometime during the years. But now when I look back, now that, I'm more composed, and, I've gone through, I'm more composed and balanced, I find that I wish I could have put my foot down, but I could not have. And you know why? Because somewhere, women are being brought up without even saying things that, we are meant to go through these things. We grow up, I see my cousins, my aunts, uncles, everyone getting married, and then immediately after that, they're having babies. So it's like, it's just the natural process of life. And so when I get married, I have to have a baby. If you get married, you have to have a baby. It's somewhere an unwritten rule of society, but it isn't. So when we were being brought up, there was no. I have a brother and a sister, but my parents didn't differentiate us They gave us the same quality education and everything. Still, in very, very little ways, we were told without being told that, yes, you're a girl and you're a boy, So those things do creep in. So when I got married, I was just 20 going on 21, I got married, and when I wasn't getting pregnant, so yes, the first box was ticked, I was married. And when I wasn't getting pregnant, people immediately, you get married and within a week they want you to get pregnant, right? I don't know how that's possible, but
Same, yeah. I don't know how that works, but yeah.
seriously. But it's like everyone's asking questions. Shankar and I are distantly related, so we have a lot of common relatives. So when we have to go in for common festivals, marriage functions, or whatever, we're meeting everyone. Everyone's asking us. We live in Triplicane, where it's like a very closed community kind of, and everyone knows everything else. So after a point in time, a few years down the line, it was almost like everyone knew my periods dates.
Oh my God.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh now it, yes, oh yeah, I know, I remember last month, this was the date. Yeah, so yes, it was like that. It was everyone's business. It was my getting pregnant was everyone's business.
Oh my God.
And so within a year of getting married, we went into fertility treatment, not because we wanted to go into, but rather we were like pushed into it. My aunts they would come and tell me, I think, Vidya, this is getting a bit too much. It's been a year now, and we are hearing, stories from your family. I mean, as in your, so I think you need. I was not told anything directly, but it would come around. So they sent me to a gynec, and then from there we went to another gynec, and so from gynec to gynec to gynec, and when we went in, I was not at all prepared for what was going to happen. I mean, I just thought, like Vaani said, it was like, probably I'm just going to pop a few pills and that was it. But it was not going to be like that. It was not going to be like that. Hormone injections, month after month of hormone injections. Yes, there were a lot of tablets that I had to pop in. That hormone injections, month after month, and very expensive ones also. So much so that, whatever I was earning was going into the treatment. And after a while, it went into artificial insemination and all that. And what it takes are, scans every month. Every month it's a scan, starting from the 5th day of the period till about the 16th, 17th day of the period. Every day the scan has to be taken, and those are special scans which violates, for me, for a woman, it's like violating her personal space. It's not the usual scan that is rubbed over your belly. Sorry, it's something that's inserted into her. And then, the artificial inseminations that happen. So
very painful.
Painful, as in not just physically, but mentally and emotionally.
Yes.
Bringing up the act of making a child is something that happens between a man and a woman, the husband and the wife. They're so much in love with each other that, the two souls become merged into one. And from that union, a third one blossoms. Something so poetic as this has now been made into something very biological and then into something very clinical. And it's not.
I mean, I find it ridiculous that everyone made it their business to know whether you had your period or not. I mean, that's just not anyone's business.
Exactly. And on top of this, more than while the medical thing was going on, there were the other social aspects also, the religious and social aspects. So maybe she has palli dosham. Someone came and said she has palli dosham. She has that dosham. So do this. tell her to go without salt for 7 weeks, take food for. So I went through all that. Go do the rounds over around a banyan tree. Okay, fine. At least it gave me walking experience, But I went through the saltless thing, and but the worst thing that I would never ever want anyone to go through is when someone in the family gets pregnant. We, in our custom, we have the valakapas,
Yeah.
So the bangles are
Ceremony.
pregnant woman is
Yeah.
decorated with bangles and sandal and kumkumam and flowers and everything. So if there's an infertile woman, a woman who isn't been able to bear a child, if she is there in the family, or someone who's like that, she is made to sit with this pregnant woman, and all these rituals are done to her also.
Oh my God.
And the idea behind this is that this woman, the infertile woman, feels jealous. I wish something, and that is supposed to bring in their terms, ஒரு புழு பூச்சியாவது in the stomach, in the womb, ஒரு புழு பூச்சியாவது in the womb, so this is the logic behind this whole thing. And I would see my mother, my family, my husband's family has been living in Triplicane for several years, so everyone knows everyone else. So someone, when she goes to the market, someone will tell her, okay, this woman, she's having her valakapa tomorrow, this is the address, tell your daughter-in-law to go there. And I will be asked to go there. I won't even know who those people are. I won't even know who those people are. I'm made to sit near, I'm called and made to sit there, and this whole thing, and things like, aren't you ashamed that you're not able to even bear a child? It's been so many years. Who are they? I don't even know them.
So apart from the pain of the physical pain and torture that you had to undergo, it was also the mental trauma and a kind of social pressure that was being put on you. And and you also told us, I remember when we met, that therefore every month when you eventually did have a period, it was like almost like death, like a death sentence, because you knew you had to go through this whole thing all over again. And
Yes.
this happened for how many years?
10 years initially. Every month. Okay, the very first year was, I was excused kind of, but after that almost 10 years. We got married in 1989, and till like 2000, every month I was, somewhere fear started building up in me when I would see that telltale sign, the blood sign, the telltale going through my urine. I will be stuck in the bathroom. I don't want to face the world. I don't want to come out. I don't want to come out because I don't know what I would hear. And
so much pain and so much of trauma, Vidya. I'm amazed that you actually stayed so strong, with all this happening around you. So I'm a little curious, and pardon me for my curiosity, but did you at any point in time, say that, okay, maybe I don't want to go through all of this. Maybe I can just adopt a child, and so that people are happy. Would that have been a possibility at all?
On a soon after our 7th wedding anniversary, my husband and we spoke to each other, and we thought maybe we should just give up all this, because I was feeling, I'm spending money and
going
energy.
through so much, just for a child might just be easier to adopt. So
yeah, I mean, and the money that I'm spending on someone else, I mean, I might as well spend it on a child who needs it.
correct.
So we wanted to adopt, but good families didn't adopt, and there wasn't awareness about it. One, there wasn't awareness about it. Secondly, the procedures were all too long winding, and there wasn't clarity about anything. So even if we wanted to adopt, there was no guidelines, nothing to take us through it. No one wanted to talk about it. In fact, much later, when we were like 20 years married, a respectable person in society here in our close circles, their son was getting married, And we came to know only then that they had adopted. And I remember by then we were like 20 years married. My mother-in-law said, I wish you people had adopted. And we said, but we wanted to. You didn't allow us. And you know what she said? If we had known that, these people were adopting, we could have also done it. But why does the world have to wait for others to do something to
Yeah.
do, to
It's
take
like
it away
a
own life?
social acceptance of adoption or whatever. But what what I'm feeling right now is that a sense of shock, a sense of anger. We have seen this in history. There has been a kind of women have been used to further progeny and to so-called nurture the patriarchy and all these things. But these were things that we've read in history. But to think that these things are still happening, that is a bit of a shock, and to me at least. And I've noticed this in an Indian context a lot, Vidya, that people, everybody in this in an Indian context makes it their business. What a woman does, how she lives. Even her body is not so much her responsibility as much as it is the responsibility of so many people around her. And that is really strange. And it's easy for people to say that, oh, looking back, you probably should have done this or should have done that, or even for you to think back to say that maybe I should have done that or something. But when you are going through something, it is extremely difficult. And it is just because you are not, it doesn't mean that you're submissive, or that you're you're a person who doesn't have a spine. None of those things. Sometimes you are just very numb, and therefore you are unable to speak up or say anything. And especially if these people who are quote unquote your oppressors are from your own family, right? I mean, you're so numb that you don't even feel like saying or anything to them. So it's easier said than done, that you should have done that or you should have done this. But normally I think Avis quotes Rumi, but today I feel like quoting Rumi, and I feel like saying, Rumi has said this. He has said that where there is ruin, there is hope for a treasure. So your body, your mind, your whole being was in ruin literally after so many years of this oppressive kind of treatment that you had. But you have lived to tell the tale, and that is the beauty of this whole thing, because this entire experience has actually led you somewhere. And this has beautifully taken you down a path which we will explore. And I think I'll let Avis also talk, because I've just been hogging the
I'm just speechless. I don't know how to respond. I've heard this story
yes.
in a different way over a cup of coffee from you, Vidya, but tonight you just make me hang my head in shame. I feel in a way we are all collectively responsible as a society. Uh, but there is a great learning for all of us here from Vidya's story, particularly this question that Vaani and Vidya were exploring. And the learning is that if you go to the opening part of Vidya's statement, she says, I wish I had put down my foot. I wish I had taken ownership of my marriage, my body, my relationship with Shankar, and this whole baby business. I wish I had done that. Now, the learning is that it's only in hindsight, only when you look back, can you have that wisdom. And pain as a process, the way it happens to all of us is that it makes us take certain decisions. And only when you go through that journey of pain with your accompaniment of decisions do you arrive at a point where you look back and you realize that there was another option too. And that is why pain is a great teacher. That is why pain is there in your life to make you learn the lessons about being strong, being eventually turning you out to be wiser, and eventually making you happy. Look at that smile on Vidya's face.
I
It tells all.
Despite all
Does it
that,
look like a lady who's been through 25 years of pain and trauma? That's the whole secret.
amazing.
So I want to go forward in your journey, Vidya, and ask you a very important question. At what point in your journey did acceptance come in? When did you decide, and possibly this decision was obviously taken with Shankar, where you said, I'm not going to subject myself to this process anymore. This is it. So when was that? And when exploring that decision, did you consider the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual dimensions of this decision? So walk us through that process.
Okay, there were three instances when this decision was made. The first one was when around the 10th year, I suddenly felt that, by then I was beginning to feel, oh my God, I just want to finish off this baby business, give the baby to whomever wants it, and live my life. I had come to that point. I felt that I wasn't doing it for myself now. It's okay if Shankar and I didn't have a baby. We love each other anyway, and we can live without the hindrance of a third. I mean, I'm sorry to use that word, but but then everyone else is not going to allow it. So let me just finish this thing, give it to them, and move on with my
Get
life.
done with it,
Yes, get done with it, so that people won't ask me that question, and I mean, people won't ask me the same. I had stopped going to any functions, but my mother-in-law, she definitely had to go. So it was like she was being asked, and so that was being reflected here. If people were not asking her, probably she would have also accepted us as we were, because she was a very open-hearted woman. And I have been married into a wonderful family, but it was only just this problem, and it was probably the pressure from outside which was telling on them, and then it was being reflected here. But eventually it was being reflected, and I guess they didn't know anything about it. So it was around, by then we were like 10 years married, and I suddenly realized that, I was doing this all by myself. I'm struggling. For what? To give a baby to the society, to the family, to the society, and no one is going to support me. No one even wants to know what is going on in that clinic on the table, the things that are being inserted into me. No one wants to know that. A procedure that the insemination is being done by a third person, and it's called something else, and so I just, one day I had gone to the doctor, and I was so frustrated. I was waiting for the bus to come back home, and standing there in the bus stop, I said, why am I doing this? Do I really want to go through this? Why am I doing this? I came back home, I told Shankar, I'm not going in for treatment anymore. And I said, please convey this to your family. I'm not going to do that. And he said, okay, I will do that. And I don't know if he did it, but no one asked me any questions after that. But soon after that, this was like 2000, January, February. And by June, Shankar got an opportunity to go to Sri Lanka. And by November that year, I had joined him. So I felt now, again, looking back, probably that step gave us this freedom of moving away from the family and away from all these pressures. So this is one. Then in 2006, we came back from Colombo. And soon after that, the whole thing started again. By 2007-8, it started again. Okay. Yes, there was a second phase. So the first phase was like 10 years. There was a second phase. The second phase, again, I didn't want to go. I just didn't want to go again. But the pressure again was again too much, and I said, okay. And there were a couple of friends who said, well, Vidya, you will, this is how you might feel, but maybe when you're old, you will regret. I wish I had given another chance. And I said, I don't think I will regret. I just want to live my life. But then they kind of convinced me, and I said, see, if a baby has to be made, it has to be a miracle. I don't want to go into a clinical thing. And they said, what if the miracle happens in the doctor's room? I wasn't convinced, but I thought I'll give it a try. So we went to one of the topmost, doctors, fertility clinics in Chennai. People from all over the world come to her, and we went too. And we went to her again and again and again for about 6 to 8 months. And except for fertility treatment, everything else was taking place, And every other day, every other week when I would visit her, I would be asked to go through some test. And so much so that in 6 to 8 months, my entire bank balance had come to zero. And nothing towards a fertility treatment had taken place yet. So this time there was no choice but to give up, because we just didn't have money. Our bank balance was zero. If we got our salaries, we were going to, we could probably go through that month, and then we had to wait for the salary. That was our situation.
So how did the final decision of the acceptance happen? Was there any reluctance within you that led to acceptance, or was the acceptance more to do with what you were going to tell the family?
The final acceptance happened a few years after this. We went to Dubai, and that is where the final acceptance happened. When we went to Dubai, I don't know, something in me said maybe, I don't know, because I think I'd put in so much of my life, so many years of my life into this thing that I thought, should I just give it up? And when I spoke to Shankar, he said, no, I think it's high time we just gave up on this, Vidya. You just don't go on with this. Give it up. And I was furious. I yelled at him and I said, I went through all this for this, just to give up on all this, just like that. I cried and I was hysterical, but then he sat me down. In fact, he had come home early from work that day. He said, let's go for a movie. And this was the movie that was happening that day. But eventually, I accepted. I said yes.
That's how you really felt, in a way, liberated. May I say that? Although it was a difficult decision.
Yes, more because by then my body was damaged.
We'll go forward to that in a bit, but here is something very powerful that Vidya has just shared. She takes us through 3 stages of acceptance that she herself went through. And even the final act, the final decision being made in Dubai on the day when they planned for a movie, but actually Shankar comes home and they have this very, very epochal conversation between them. Acceptance is difficult. We all struggle with acceptance. But acceptance is magical too. It does not make a problem go away. Let me tell you that. Acceptance cannot solve problems, but acceptance can make you deal with problems better. That's the magical quality that acceptance brings to the table. But why do we all struggle with acceptance? Look at your own life context. Any of you on this call, in some of your families, people may be struggling with acceptance. You know where it all starts? It first starts with denial. We deny there is a problem. Then we ask why me? Then we ask, we are fearful about the consequences of the problem. We're dealing with grief, guilt, shame, anger. All those emotions are there. And then comes grudging acceptance. Because denial has not solved it for you. Why me has not solved it for you. Fear has not solved it for you. Anger has not solved it for you. Then you sit back and say, man, this is like been going on for a long time. Maybe I should give it a chance by accepting it for what it is. That is grudging acceptance. When grudging acceptance over a period of time morphs into complete acceptance. In Vidya's case, she goes through 3 stages of grudging acceptance. And eventually, even on that key day in Dubai, she's like asking Shankar, what does all this mean? But he holds her hand, he holds her heart, and walks her through the process of acceptance. What does acceptance do to you? It gives you equanimity. It gives you resilience. It unlocks the resilience in you. And most importantly, it opens the door to happiness. Because it is only through acceptance that you can embrace happiness. So whatever you're going through in life, remember, denial, why me, fear, anger, grudging acceptance. You can avoid all these stages and go straight to acceptance. That's where I'm picking up the learning. For almost like 10 years, you went through this. We went through this for a long time. It is only when we accepted our reality that we are going through a bankruptcy, when we accepted our reality that we are going to be broke and we are going to deal with being broke and live with being broke, that we unlocked the secret to happiness. That's been our own experience. Absolutely. I'll let you take the next question for Vidya.
Vidya, when, I know because you've told us this before that when you were going through so much of pain and, all these, various issues in your life, the one saving grace and the healing factor in your life has been poetry. And, I want to ask you about your poetry. How did poetry help you with this healing process? And did you find poetry or did poetry find you? How did that happen?
Did I find poetry or did poetry find
me? Find you. I mean,
I am poetry. I am poetry.
I love that. I love that.
I am poetry. When I found myself, my poetry flowed.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So and so you've always been writing poetry, right?
Yes, yes. I used to write poetry as a child, as a school girl. Even in my school exams for English, my English exams, I would finish it off with a verse that I would make up then and there and put it in the paper.
in the exam paper?
In the exam hall, for my public exams, everywhere I have done that. Yes. Everywhere I have done that. And I did write poetry. Well, those days we didn't have these kind of things, but I would probably write and Shankar would type it out and bring it to me and I would file them up and all that in the initial days of our marriage. But after that, somewhere, I stopped writing. But I remember, even when I'm sitting out, in the initial stages of the fertility treatments, when I would be sitting outside waiting for my turn to go in, there's poetry running in my head.
Wow.
There's poetry running in my head. I'm thinking in poetry. My lines are all poetry. But somewhere, I think the more I moved away and away and away and away from myself, from what I intrinsically am, what I am meant to do, what I need to do, the more I started moving away and away and away, trying to please the outside world and not at the cost of my happiness, I was moving away and away and away from poetry. But that day in Dubai, when Shankar said, I think we need to finally give this, you need to accept this, I cried and I came, I sat down at my table at the laptop and poetry came.
Wow.
Wait for sunshine. I call that my first ever poem. Whatever I wrote before that were just, yes, but this was my first ever poem. And that was the first ever poem of mine that was ever published in an international literary journal. And in my first book, I had not included that poem initially. And my first book felt incomplete. And then I said, maybe this has a place. And when I looked at the scheme of things in my book, this was the first poem in my book, my first book. And Wait for Sunshine started And as I wrote poetry, I realized that I did not have to wait for sunshine because I am sunshine.
How beautifully said. How beautifully said.
Beautiful, beautiful.
You are sunshine, Vidya, you are. And you also started blogging, if I'm right, around that time.
Yes.
Right?
So poetry was a way of expression for
Way
her.
of expression. Poetry, art is always healing. And I read this quote by this American actress called Stella Adler, and she says, "Life beats down and crushes the soul." I'm reading. Life beats down and crushes the soul, and art reminds you that you have won. So, for you, poetry was not just healing you, it was your light, like you said, I am sunshine, I am poetry. So your words, and in your second book, The Rise of Yogamaya, in the preface, you have mentioned that you found a lot of strength in your words. Both the written and the spoken word gave you a lot of strength. And you also say, and this I thought was extremely beautiful, you say that your poetry made you feel like a mother, because you were actually creating this poetry, you were nurturing your poetry. So in spirit, you actually felt like a mother because you were giving birth to these beautiful poems, and you were nurturing the writing spirit. And so it gave you that feeling of being a mother. And this, I think, is extremely beautiful because uh, as that quote says, life has a way of crushing you, and art has a way of healing and reminding you that, hey, there's a lot more to life than just what you're going through. So it's just so beautiful, and thank you for sharing this about your writing and your poetry.
What I am picking up is the way you instantaneously responded when Vani
Yeah.
asked you the question. I know you were overwhelmed. I could feel it
Yes.
across the screen. You were overwhelmed when you said, "I am poetry,"
Correct.
and you are overwhelmed when you say, "I am sunshine," because you are that. Each one of us is that. The magic is finding out what is that, and when you find that, your own art, what makes you dissolve, then magic happens. I'm going to move forward with the conversation and ask you, Vidya, in terms of dealing with uh, the, um, the period from roughly 1990-91 till all the way till about 2017, when you have the hysterectomy. It's understandable, uh, and anyone hearing your story would have thought the hysterectomy was the final cut, literally, metaphorically. But then you're plunged into a depressive phase after that. You're dealing with depression. Now, how did you hold yourself together? How did you pick yourself up from the dark space that you found yourself in? And how did you move forward? Because then, around the time you published book one, then the second book comes out, it requires a lot of resilience, a lot of courage. And how did you do that?
When I was getting my first book ready and it was all going into publication stage, final stages of being published, that is when hysterectomy was like final. Yes, it need the womb had to come out, the uterus, and the whole thing had to be cleared out. That was confirmed. So both these kind of clashed. My book was released, published, and ready to be brought out into the world. My baby was ready to be brought out into the world. And here I'm losing the very organ which is supposed to bring out a baby into the world. And both these juxtapositioning, I think it was too much of a blow for me to take it. And within a week after the hysterectomy, I started crying. And I didn't know why I was crying. Shankar didn't know. No one around me knew why I was crying. But people came up with their own terms, ideas. And I was being said that I think just imagine, just think, count your blessings. You probably don't know how to live in gratitude. You don't know how to count your blessings. Look at us, we're all still struggling with having to face our periods month after month, and see how much you had faced and now it's gone. I do understand it was said to comfort me, but while I try to tell them that, yes, I'm so glad that I'm now rid of, I don't have to face going through bloody period pains and nasty stains and everything. While I am glad about it, this is something else, and it's something deeper than that. It's not physical, it's something deeper than that, and I'm still not able to find out why I'm going through depression. So please stay with me, please sit with me, talk to me, try to when I'm probably talking, when there's someone to listen to you, I might probably get some clarity, but no one was willing to listen to me. People just didn't have the time. It was like, what, you have a wonderful husband, and now by then my mother-in-law had passed away. It was only the three of us in the house. It's only the two of you. You can have a honeymoon life now, and look at us, we are all suffering. Is your suffering greater than ours? So people are sitting there comparing suffering, saying that their suffering is greater than mine because physically their situation is worse than mine. So but what they did not even want to listen to was the 10 years, and then the other 2-3 years much later, when I had to go through all that. And every, like I said, every period was a death. When I saw that blood going down, I would think, there goes my baby, there goes my baby, and I have to try again. And but there was no time to mourn for that baby that was lost. And because I had to take the pills again and go and sit outside a clinic again to get the scans done again.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
So
no time to mourn.
how did you move forward from the dark phase? When you were analyzing all this, it must have been so much darkness. Chances are you could have been pushed deeper, but you seem to rise back up. How did that happen, Vidya?
I understood that there was something drastically wrong with me. I am not this person, and I did not know about depression, but it was a chance book launch that Sharada had invited me, Sharada Dharmaraj. She said, why don't you come over, maybe this would help you. And I went over. It was a book launch, and there was this lady who had come all the way from Mumbai. She was traveling city after city trying to create awareness about depression. And I felt, maybe, from what she says, maybe I'm going through depression. But again, I was told that with the ones around me, no, someone who's in depression will never know that they are in depression. So I decided to go to a couple of psychologists. And for me, I'm always rising. I don't like to be down in the dumps. So I go dressed up like this, and the psychologist, she looks at me and she says, you're beautifully dressed, you're wearing lipstick, you're properly dressed, you're wearing bangles and earrings, matching earrings. I don't think you have depression. So this was the response that I was getting. I wasn't getting any kind of help. But initially, Shankar didn't understand what was going on, but he understood that one thing he understood, I was suffering, and he sat by me. He stood by me. He would hold my hand. There were times when he wouldn't allow me to lock myself up even when I was going to the restroom, because he didn't want me to feel alone. But trust me, that phase, it was just him and me, just the two of us. And for his sake, I decided to come out. Everyone we knew had forsaken us. No one wanted us. Friends who were supposed to be with us, they went on a holiday. When I asked her, she said, I said, you know how much I want to go on a holiday. Why didn't you tell me we're planning on one? And she said, you've been sitting and crying. I didn't want my holiday to be spoiled. I blocked her. She's still blocked today. I don't want such people around me who think that if I am good enough to go with her for a movie, then I should be good enough when I'm crying also. I don't want such people around me.
So
So
no one understood that you were going through a depression.
So finally, you even and to add to that question, I want to ask you. So finally, you had to take that decision
Yes.
to face your situation, accept it, and say, the act of blocking a friend who was not supportive is only a metaphor here. But what you're actually doing is you're blocking out all the influences that are not useful for you anymore.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I
And
blocked all that and I said, I am going to rise. I am going to live again. There is at least one soul with me, and for his sake, I have to come back. The day I took that decision, I ran into my yoga sir again on the streets, and he said, Vidya, come over. And I went and I told him my story, and he said, let us start all over again. So from scratch, I had been doing yoga for a while with him for about 2 years, and the whole thing had stopped because of my mother-in-law's death, and then the hysterectomy and all that, it had stopped. So again, from scratch, we started. And in fact, the guru who taught me, she's here in the audience today. The first level was 10 classes, but they allowed me to sit. It was just one-on-one. The first 3-4 classes, I would go sit there and cry, do nothing but cry, and they allowed me to cry, and then slowly led me,
so
allowed
that's how
me
the
to
healing
feel.
happened.
Yes.
We'll get to the healing, but you made a very important point. You said, I will rise. It was a call from within you. And you
Yes.
said you will block all the influences which are not working for you.
Yes.
And magically, your yoga teacher appears on the street for you, and you go back to the process of healing, right?
Yes. Yes.
But the key is that rise, that feeling of rising from within you. I have understood from life that only when you face your fears can you flow with life.
Yes.
Life will sometimes push you to a corner where you don't know what you must be doing. What do you do when you don't know what you must do? Then it becomes very fearful. It becomes a very dark space. And the way to deal with that dark space is not to run away from it. See, flowing with life is a very important word. The important word here is flowing. You have to flow with life. Are you flowing with life, or are you fighting with life? If you fight with life, whatever you're fighting will chase you, will haunt you, will torment you. But if you turn around and face it, then it will slink away. It will become less demonic. And it is only through facing life can you pick up each of your debilitating emotions. Like in Vidya's case, she says, I blocked my friend. Now, that friend was not useful, was not supportive, and she said, I blocked that friend. Now, many times we are allowing influences that are pinning us down to control us. Sadness, grief, guilt, shame, jealousy, anger, all fear, all these are influences that are pinning us down. When you face your fears, when you turn around and look at your fears, you pick up each of these emotions. Have you seen a dewdrop hang from a blade of grass? I'm being poetic here. Suddenly I'm getting an inspiration from Vidya.
Inspiration from Vidya
Okay.
is coming.
Have you seen a dewdrop hang from a blade of grass? It's just hanging there. You look at sadness like that. You look at anger like that. You look at your jealousy like that. You look at your grief like that. And chinnada on the blade of grass, thoda sa agar aapne hila diya, you just touch it like that, the dewdrop falls. Like that, drop those debilitating emotions and you become fearless. Only through facing life can you become fearless. Fearlessness is not the absence of fear. Fearlessness is what fear delivers to you when you face your fears. That's what I'm picking up. The rise of Vidya Shankar, and I think she aptly titles her book The Rise of Yogamaya, is a result of that turning around and facing life. I know you got very emotional there, Vidya. But that's an important question, and I'm going to let Vaani ask that question.
Yeah. So, when you were talking about Shankar, you got so emotional because he's been there for you through everything, your husband, and he supported you in every way possible. And can you tell us, a little bit about that support that you received from him? And, the fact that must have been difficult for him too, because he, had to stand up against social norms and pressure from society, which is normally not very easy. Forget it. It doesn't matter that you're a man, but the fact that you have to stand up, and face all these things must have been difficult for him too. Despite that, he supported you. So, Vidya, can you share something about the kind of support that you received from Shankar?
Shankar and I, it seems like only yesterday that we were engaged to be married.
Yeah.
But
That's a sweet
yeah,
picture of the two of you behind you.
yes, that was taken soon after our second child was born, and we
Beautiful.
introduced her to the world. The Rise of Yogamaya was born at Odyssey soon after the book launch. So Shankar would sit by me, listen. I would go on talking through my tears, and he would keep nodding his head and putting his arm around. And I don't think he even understood a word of what I was telling him, but he was there for me. We would go for walks. He would take me to the beach, and I would be crying and walking. But and I wouldn't be able to walk more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But and for him, he is normal. He can walk faster, but he would take each and every step with me. And are you tired? Are you this? He would cook my meals and make sure I'm properly fed. And he took care of me like a mother would take care of a baby. In fact, that year in 2018 for Mother's Day, I told Shankar I want to go out for dinner, and he said, "Why suddenly?" I said, "I want to go out for dinner. Please take me." So we went out for dinner, and then over dinner I said, "I'm going to pay for this dinner," and he said, "Why?" "Happy Mother's Day, Shankar," I said, and I treated him for
So
Mother's Day.
sweet.
So
How
that
How
is
romantic. Absolutely beautiful.
so that is Shankar to me. He's been my husband. He's been my friend, my best friend. He's been my mother, my father, everything. He's been my servant also at times.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah.
but
You know,
that's
I've always thought this, that love is not about giving gifts to somebody or giving roses to somebody or, being romantic and all of that. Love is about being there for someone when they need you. That is really love. And I've been asked this a lot of times. Through our dark times, when we've had very difficult times, there's been no money in the house for anything. During the bankruptcy, people have asked me, "Oh, how is it that you are able to be with this man? Why are you supporting him?" And I said, "No, it's about being for the person when they need you. That is love. And Avis loves a particular song from this film called Jurm. It's a 1990 film, I think.
1990.
It features Vinod Khanna and Meenakshi Seshadri. There's this beautiful song that goes, "जब कोई बात बिगड़ जाए, जब कोई मुश्किल पड़ जाए, तुम देना साथ मेरा ओ हम नवाज." So it translates that into English. I'll say it in English. It says, when things go awfully wrong and we have a hell of a lot of problems, please promise that you will be with me, my dear love. That's what the poem says, the poet says. So, it's about being there for someone when they need you, and, full credit to both Shankar and you that you stuck together through all of this.
And in a way, Vaani and I are together here as well in front
I
of you
know.
because one of our devices conked out. This is a repeat announcement for everyone. If you're wondering
Yeah.
why we are so chipko-fying with each other on
That's
this,
because we're sharing
we're sharing a
Earphone.
earphone. And I was reminded of Gulzar Saab when she was talking. Gulzar Saab in Mera Kuch Saman, when he writes, he says,
Yeah.
"Ek akeli chhatri mein आधे आधे भीग रहे हैं, आधे सूखे आधे गीले." that's the way it goes. So we are sharing an earphone here, in these Zoom times. So I think life is about being with each other, and companionship is all about being each other, irrespective of uh, the circumstances, irrespective of the appearances, irrespective of the asset value of the person, the financial asset value of the person. True companionship, dosti jise bolte hain, nanba and that real feeling is what we see between you and Shankar. We met you so many times, and towards the end of this call, we'll have Shankar come and say hello to everyone. But we'll move on with the conversation, Vidya, to my absolutely last question for the evening, because it's an important question and I want to allow time to explore it. So this is a question that is really about the way you've been holding this conversation with us. On one side, you're very courageous. On the other side, you are very you're very human. You're very publicly displaying how overwhelmed you are. So sometimes don't you feel very vulnerable sharing your life with people? Or does it make you happy? Is that your idea of happiness? And do you feel that all of this that has happened to you, Vidya, it's happened with a reason? That you were made to go through what you are going through only to be that I am sunshine, I am poetry, that moment?
Thank you for this question, Avis. When I look back, people say, oh, you have Shankar with you. Yes, probably that was destined. Well, I would have come out even otherwise. But then, having someone like Shankar by my side gives me that a lot more extra strength and energy that I need. And I realized, I think maybe, the universe has its own purpose in making me go through all this, to tell the world something that it has forgotten, that a woman's womb, just because a woman is born with a womb, doesn't mean that she always has to conceive. How many women here in this audience, or how many women out there, the millions of women out there, how many of you can say that you had your child born out of love? You get married and then you have a child. It's a biological process. Or probably you had a child to save a marriage.
Possible.
You have several reasons. How many of you can say that you fell in love, you and your spouse fell in love, and you became one soul, and you wanted to bring this merger to fruition, and so the fruit of that is your baby? How many of you can say that? But no, we don't, none. I have had women coming to me, girls coming to me and saying, do we even have a choice? When I go to the human library or wherever to talk, but do we even have a choice? Girls ask me, do we? And I tell them, yes, you have a choice. That womb is yours. That womb is yours. It's fine. I mean, the womb is capable of bearing a child. But that is not the only purpose why a woman is born in this earth. And neither is bringing out a child the only purpose of marriage. Marriage is togetherness. A child is much later. You and I, Shankar and I, or Vaani and Avis, are in marriage because you need to go on this journey together.
Very true. Well said.
The child comes in much later, which how many of you sitting here even know that? I would like each and every one of you to go back home today and think over what made you conceive your child. Was it because you want, it just happened. The biological thing just happened. It's like you eat, and so the food gets digested, and so you need to go to the loo, and then your stomach is hungry, empty again, so you are hungry, so you eat. biological process. Bearing a child is not a biological process, though there is biology involved in it. The purpose of my life, if I can tell the world from this conversation, if two people think, yes, I should not ask another woman why she doesn't have a child or when is she going to have a child, or if two other girls think, yes, this womb is mine and I will have a child only if I want to, and I'm not going to let the outside world pressurize me. This talk has made its day. My life has made its purpose. No more Vidyas. I used to say, that is why I go out and talk. People tell me, maybe you're still not over your past. No, I have forgiven everyone, including that friend who still remains blocked. She still remains blocked for her own good. Even if she comes to me, it's fine. I can handle anything. I am a star. I am sunshine. I told you I am sunshine. The sun shines on all of us equally. But when does the sunshine not reach you? When you have blocked yourself. Remove that and come into my life and you will know my love.
So
And
no more Vidyas. That's what you believe is the purpose of everything that has happened to you and the purpose of your life going forward.
Yes, if I had been given a chance, I would have just loved to have a simple life. Maybe if we were not pressurized, maybe sometime in our life, in the first 10 years, if we had not gone in for treatment and all that, somewhere Shankar and I would have been able to create a child and we would have just had a simple life, a loving life. And if I had not conceived, even that, I would have just accepted, he would have accepted, and we would have lived our life anyway, happily. But then no, this truth has to be told to the world, that happiness does not come from external things, from having a child, from having a house, from having a car. And so the universe has chosen me. It put me through all this. I am like the bamboo that took its time to grow. You know the story of the bamboo, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't.
now you're standing tall like the bamboo.
You're standing tall, Vidya.
Like the bamboo.
You made so many important points there, and so forcefully. No more Vidyas it can be seen as a statement that is being made coming from a position of aggression over what you have had to endure for 25 years. But no more Vidyas is also a statement of hope to people that they have the right to make the choice to own their body the way they want to own it and to not subject themselves to societal pressures. I think that's very powerful. And I love the way you said how the universe has chosen you. You know, living a life of purpose, Vidya, and everyone in the audience, living a life of purpose is a great blessing. And you know, when purpose finds you, purpose will find you when you take your pain and you employ the learnings from your painful episode in your life and put it to use for others so that others don't have to go through the same pain that you have had to endure. When you employ your pain for a larger good, then purpose manifests itself. So no more Vidyas is a very powerful statement. It's a very powerful demonstration of who you are and what you're doing. I really loved the way you described that to us of how you are seeing it. One final word from you. Today, and keep this very sharp because I'm going to start wrapping up everything that we have picked up from Vaani and you speaking and me and you speaking and kind of wrapping up this conversation to finish on time. So keep it very sharp. Today, where you are after having seen so much of pain and trauma in your life, what is your idea of happiness?
Living today as it comes to me, living in the now, Life isn't that, happiness isn't a stress-free life. It's okay to be stressed, but it's how you manage that, how you are happy in spite of the stress, how you are happy, how you're contented, how you live in gratitude for every little thing that has happened, how you're able to love another, how you're able to forgive, and how you're able to. I have told my tale today not with anger, though I may have spoken in high octaves. I have not spoken in anger.
And
I
that
have
comes
not
from happiness.
cried. I may have been emotional, but I have not cried out of self-pity. I have
Beautiful.
not had a single negative moment today.
Beautiful.
Today, I am smiling, sitting here, and I am able to tell the story is because I am happy.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that very powerful, clarity that you bring to what you have shared with us all evening. You know, I am able to tell you my story because I'm happy. That's a very very powerful takeaway for all of us here. I might have spoken in high octaves, but I am not angry. I might have felt emotional, but I didn't cry out of self pity. I am happy. Thank you, Vidya, for that. I'm going to look at Vidya's journey, and in the remaining time that I have, quickly going to share learnings from the overall journey. On one side, you can look at Vidya and you can say, Vidya's is a story of a woman's courage, of standing up to a decadent society and its absurd draconian expectations. That is one side of the story, and how she takes that pain and pours it into her art, into poetry. That's the dimension that was evident. But the other side is also equally powerful, and she did talk about it when she talked about No More Vidyas. But I am going to go to her own book, The Rise of Yogamaya. My favorite part of this book is the preface, where and I'm going to quote a particular excerpt from a preface, where she says, "Today I have moved on from darkness into the light of knowledge, wisdom, and love, having forged beautiful relationships with people who love me for who I am. Today I live in creativity without fear, having broken the shackles of societal conditioning. I live a life worthy of living, a life with a purpose. Today, I have risen as Yogamaya had done when Kamsa challenged her with fear." It should truly be the rise of Vidya Shankar. But the metaphor of Yogamaya sits very well as well. But the key operative phrase for me from that excerpt, Vidya, is living a life with purpose. Purpose is magical. We were listening to Joe Biden the other night on the when he gave his acceptance speech at the National Democratic Convention, and he says that the best way through pain, loss, and grief is to find purpose. Biden, like Vidya, like the two of us, knows this from lived experience. He has lived with a stutter all his life, a stutter that has led him to be ridiculed, that has led him to be misunderstood. His wife, his first wife and daughter, died in a horrible car crash. He went through two painful surgeries and prolonged, hopeless phases of recovery for brain aneurysms. Both his bids for the White House in 1988 and 2008 were rejected. He lost his son Bio in 2015 to cancer. And even this Democratic nomination was almost rejected. And yet, Biden hopes to heal America because he believes this is his time to do it. Now, he's seen a lot of life and he's seen a lot of crisis. So when he says to go, the best way through grief, through loss, and through pain is to find purpose, he is right. It is only because Vaani and I found our purpose of inspiring happiness that we are able to sit in front of you today and explore the fascinating journey of another lady, another fellow voyager, Sunshine Vidya Shankar, in terms of how she has dealt with her own pain and her trauma. So purpose makes life beautiful, and it reminds us that what is breaking us is actually making us. We think that pain is a conspiracy to finish us off, but really, pain is making us stronger, wiser, and happy. Look at her, look at us, look at yourself in the mirror tonight, and accept yourself for who you are. Ovid, not COVID, but Ovid, O-V-I-D, a Roman poet who lived between 43 BC and 18 AD, wrote these lines. He said, "Be patient and tough. Your pain one day will be useful to you. Time is generally the best doctor." So whatever you're going through, people, and what I want us to take away from Vidya Shankar tonight is be patient, embrace your pain, live with it, co-live with your pain. Do not resist it, accept it, co-live with it. Your pain is here and you are here, and the two of you can co-live because you can learn from your pain. And if you do that, then no matter what the circumstances are, you will be happy. Just as we both are, just as Vidya is, not that we don't have problems, but we are happy. So Vidya, thank you once again for this amazing, amazing conversation. We loved having you with us. Before I end, I'm going to make a couple of announcements, and then we're going to have all of you come back. If you can stay on for a few more minutes, everyone, we'll have all of you turn on your videos, and we will take some pictures, and we will also say hello remotely to Shankar. But before that, a couple of announcements. So thank you, Vidya. Thank you, for this beautiful, beautiful conversation.
Your journey is so inspiring and, you know, so moving at the same time.
And authentic.
And very authentic. And thank you for being so honest.
So the couple of announcements
The
couple of announcements that we have are, and I'm going to throw up this slide, share to show you what we have coming up for you. We have this conversation lined up for you on the 26th of September. This is a conversation in the Bliss Catcher series. I'll blow it up so you can see it better. And we have two wonderful people, Dr. Yamini Saripalli, a dancer, joining us from Bethesda, Maryland in the US, and Hans Kaushik, actor, artist, and teacher from Chennai here. And the two of them will be on our Bliss Catcher series. That's on the 26th September. Yamini is living her most part Kuchipudi evangelist and some part dermatologist life and loving it. And Hans has invested 35 years in being himself. And he says the universe has always taken care of him. So fascinating stories coming up there, 26th September. And if any of you has not registered with us for our mailing list, or you want to share the details of how to register for our non-spamming mailing list for our free public conversations with others in your circle, then the number to which you need to send a name, email ID, mobile number, and the city you live in is 98409-78823. That's 98409-78823. So that's what we had for all of you this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Vaani and I love you all. It's been fascinating having people from all over the world, and that's the beauty of this pandemic. We would have been a live conversation being conducted at the beautiful Odyssey store, but then we would have had a very limited reach. But now we are able to reach so many of you wonderful people across the world. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you need to know more about us, the Happynesswalas, you need to Google HAPPYNESSWALAS. We spell happiness with a Y because it's a decision that you, the Y stands for you, a decision that you have to take. Thank you so much. We all love you. I'm going to end the conversation here, but I'm going to invite all of you to stay on. We still have a lot of people on the call. So please turn on your videos and I'll throw up the gallery feature so we can get some pictures, okay? And yeah, so lots of people over there. Oh, I have to stop the recording. Okay, I have to stop the recording.